So I'd like to start with one of my poems, and then I was going to sink our teeth in, but that's not the right language. Walking for days, day by day, stripping our known world. Ups seem endless, downs not so different. Finally reaching a temple, an ancient power and heart, some place where magic and the ordinary rests within the dark and the light. Given the deep privilege to speak, what you see has no core or substance, yet truly is exactly as it seems. What you see has no core or substance, yet truly is exactly as it seems. We wrestle with this paradox, giving the self a twirl. So tonight, it is, in some ways, I think one of the things I'm going to request is that I'd love for you to, is in your morning sitting to, this is something that's, been done. I've done it for years. It's the reflection on these five, these recollections. And they are pivotal in the sense that, we are, I don't know, I was going to say, we are just asleep, And so these are just reminders of some of the most fundamental truths that how things are. And so in that way, in the monastic tradition, this is part of the chant every morning is the five reflections. And so it's a kind of a core piece of it. But what I'm going to ask, at least for this week, is that when you sit in the morning, that you simply start with going over these five reflections. You don't have to do anything with them. That's the idea of reflections, is they are just to bring that into your consciousness. And then there is a kind of, what is it? Well, it's like the practice in some ways. There is a remembering during the day of what this is all about and what it's for in some ways. So I'll just go over these, and then I think Marcia's actually, well, there's two ways. One is they'll be in the chat and you can get to them that way, or you can go to our website, and there in the what is it, the instructions and stuff for this, there is the five reflections. Now I'm going to read something. It's a little bit different, but this is kind of what I like, as interpretations of it. And this is really simple. But these, it's just like a lot of simple things. When they are reflections, they become quite profound, So I'll just read through them. And what we're going to do is each day we're going to go through one of these, and I'll do a very short piece, and then we'll have a discussion about maybe your reflection on it. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Okay, so those are the kind of the basis of the 5 reflections. And again, there is some seriousness in it, because it's not that, it's sort of like Buddha talking about the first noble truth, that there is unsatisfactoriness, or as kind of a core truth. In the same way, these reflections are core truths. They are that which, when reflected upon, that they actually have some degree of those 4 noble truths in them. So when you kind of put your attention on growing old, and it's really this capacity to have reflection on it, that you can't escape it. The time doesn't stop for you. It's just part of how this is happening, and gratefully so. And so to just reflect on this simple truth of growing old, and that due to the nature of growing old, is that there is very much, I think on one side, there's, at least I see this, and just at 75, I go, wow, I wish I had had the wisdom I had of what I know now when I was young. Gee, I would have done things a little differently. But this is the whole thing, that yes, the body gets older, and there may be more already basis for reflection in that process, So it's not these things are all a kind of truths, and you frame it the way you need to frame it, And for some people, you know, um, they're excited about growing old. It's like, oh wow, you know, I'm knowing and learning things that I never imagined. So there's that side of it. So that's kind of the positive side. The negative side is, oh my goodness, how can I stop this? This is did I sign up for this? And you did sign up for it, but some people just don't want to deal with it. They signed up for it, so it's okay. But these are just reflections, and it's just, I think sometimes I've heard this so many times, oh, Buddhism is such a negative religion, and simply because of the First Noble Truth. But I would counteract that. I would say this is a realistic. This is just touching what's true, and that somehow you have to start with what's true, and that there is also in that, in each of these, there is still the noble truth of when or when there is an insight into something, that first of all, we see what the conditioning is. What is it? So we know that the second noble truth is all about attachment. So attachment to youth, or attachment to the way my body was, or there are many things in that simple truth that we can reflect on, and that at the same time, and this is the promise within this, is if one really understands first the reality of it. The second is that there is causes or conditions of unsatisfactory or dissatisfaction within it. And that there is also this third noble truth that is really that there is also freedom, and it's not freedom from changing. I mean, we have such a culture that, wants to, I don't know, do you want to live forever? I don't know, or keep everything status quo. And the truth is, no, this is all teaching, and growing old is simply, it is You can see it as a gift, and you can also see that there is, you know, that third noble truth, that there is freedom with the reflection and seeing it for what it is. You know, it's like, oh, okay, so this is what the body does. And within that, there is still the nature of freedom, you know. So you still always have this possibility. And then there's a path. So it basically, the fourth noble truth, the path of, you know, that we have to understand. To me, it's really the two functions, and one of them is that there is a kind of a wisdom in understanding. And if there is a wisdom in understanding the path itself, there is also heart, and that the heart comes from the understanding. But you have to have the kind of reflection. You have to see the consequences of how this works on some level. I think, you know, some of it's pretty simplistic, but like all these things, there is a surface level to things, and then there is kind of the deeper level to it. And so when you talk about, you know, old age or growing old, there is, you know, the wisdom comes from seeing into it, from reflecting on it, and from in some ways I think of seeing it as the gift that's there, even though, you know, unfortunately, the other part of that truth, the other side of it, and that's really the third noble truth, is the truth of the consequence of time, you know. And even if you screwed it up, you always have a possibility of that third noble truth. It's always there, in some capacity, and it takes reflection. You know, you just I think in a lot of ways, one of the wonders of Western culture is that we are a youth culture that, you know, with, my goodness, you know, there's so much kind of propagation of, you know, if you use this on your face, if you, you know, do this exercise, you do, it's quite, you know, and some of it, yes, it may sustain something for a little while, but the truth is, it's still, time takes its toll, you know. And you can, this is the thing about a reflection, you can see the, what is it, the negative side of it, or you can also see the positive side, you know. Oh, with age comes wisdom, and it's great, you know. It's one of the things that it contrasts me in this culture, you know. In other cultures, I'm actually, as a kind of old person, I'm kind of respected. Here I become invisible, you know, that an old person just becomes invisible. They, you know, they no longer have their usefulness or their, but other cultures, they see it as, oh, that person has gone through this many seasons, and that if they were awake to those seasons, that they are actually something that carries wisdom that youth does not have, you know. So that's a positive side of it. And I totally concur that there's a tremendous amount of wisdom, you know, in a process called aging, even though the body, you know, its natures, it changes. And you make it a problem, you know. And I can say one of the things, unfortunately, is that You know, I think when I was young, I could eat anything, I could climb any mountain, I could, you know, go anywhere I wanted, and it really wasn't a problem. And now I have to think about it, you know, simply because, you know, there's new teachings in it. And the new teachings aren't necessarily bad, they're just new, you know. And I think, you know, this is a youth culture, so it's very hard to um, you know, put some kind of good light on age. It just it's just not what's there. You know, what's there is that, you know, um, you no longer have the agility or the mental capacity. I mean, I see in my own self, you know, and sometimes I think, well, I'm not that old, but I forget things you know, that I didn't before, and that there is a price to this, you know, process that is about time, you know. And I know that sometimes in our culture we really do say we'd like to turn time back, but if you carry the same, excuse me, stupidity that was there when you're younger, you probably wouldn't want to do that. You know, you'd be happy to be where you are and have the kind of the body you have, that's, you know, somewhat or you know, functional, and that because of that, then you have this possibility, you know. So old age, and it's just I'm just going to talk about that tonight, but there's another side to this, and it has to do with the fact that uh, and it's really what you see in the kind of I think in the Chinese culture and other cultures that respect age, is because we've had this possibility of seeing into, you know, and seeing into means that we're not going to hold things the same way that we did. And so there is a kind of a natural letting go that's there. And, you know, as you get older and older, I think it becomes more and more apparent that that's what you're learning, you know, and that because you are growing older, that there is a gift in the fact that, you know, what you relied on before, it may be seeing or hearing or smelling or remembering or is maybe not the same, but your capacity to wrestle with it is different, you know. And I think that's the gift in it, you know. I think sometimes, you know, there was a great teacher, Mahagosananda, and I met him at Spirit Rock years and years ago. I had so much respect. He was kind of the patriarch of Cambodia, and he was just a love bug, you know. He was just a big heart, and his teachings were simple. He didn't do anything particular, but he touched so many people, and the Cambodian people who had lost, you know, when you think of 3 million people, the genocide they went through, and how just horrifying that was. And one of the beauties was along the camps in Thailand. You know, when he had come back from France and stuff, and he would just go and he would go and he would chant the Metta Sutta. You know, it's just, you know, which really expounds this whole thing that somehow we are, you know, fragile creatures that have this capacity to care and love, you know. And for the Cambodians in the camps who had pretty much lost everything, was the first time that someone had come to them and chanted what they knew from their past. You know, it's very beautiful, you know. And he was a very kind of jolly, lovely fellow, you know. And but he really was that, he was the teaching itself. And one of the things was that he uh, had dementia. And he actually came to the States, was living in Washington, D.C. at Bhante Guptaratnas. And they would lose him. And he would go out and, he somehow would disappear in the morning. And he would just walk around the streets of Washington, D.C., and, in his robes. And he had no cares in the world. It was like, oh, okay. And of course, those in kind of the monastery and stuff were absolutely horrified because they had to send people out looking for him, but he was actually fine. And I always think of like, okay, old age. All right. Well, can I actually learn to let go so that that teaching of Mahakosananda, that somehow I don't have to remember. What I have to do is, stay open, stay fearless, stay caring. That's it. That's all, And if I can't remember anybody's name, well, tough. That's not what qualifies you. I mean, it's hard if you forget your kids' names or something like that. But you know, you know what? I think if they're really good, they won't care. They go, oh, that's just, but it's the heart that matters. And so why we do this training ultimately is that we're teaching ourselves towards old age how to let go. So we too can be sort of like Mahakosananda, is someone who really, they don't need the memory. And I know for many people, especially in Alzheimer's and stuff, that, they get so frustrated in what they used to know and what they know now, and which is very painful for both the caretakers and the family members. But it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm really convinced that somehow that we can, if we do our work, is that it's going to work out just fine. Even if you kind of forget everybody's name, it's all right, because what is it? It's this capacity, if you can keep letting go and keep bringing your attention back to your heart. It'd be nice to figure it all out, I know, but maybe that's not what this is about, So I think that there's a big possibility there of actually using age and as a compliment, And I'm sorry that, I mean, even in Thailand, there is such a thing as I notice all the younger people, they kind of have a lot of, even though I'm sorry, I'm a white guy, so I understand that difference, but also the fact that I'm old, that they've been taught some respect. It's not that I'm just useless and invisible, because I'm old. And it's, the beauty of youth is no longer available. And I think that, there's something to that honoring that is something that we have. I don't know if we lost or never had, or but it's a youth culture. It's a culture saying what we honor is youth. And that to me is a problem. It's like, oh, wait a minute, it's kind of where's the wisdom? And I'm not saying, because I know that I forget a lot of things. I'm amazed I can still teach sometimes, but um, it doesn't bother me, but it does bother other people sometimes. Oh, I forgot that. Sorry, And so there is that, and as all of you age, you all have to kind of deal with that, I guess. But if you come from your heart, you'll be okay. And but if you think you can still figure it out when you can't anymore, then that's a little different. So I kind of lean on the side of Mahagosananda that it's okay, John, if you get dementia and you can't remember anything, if you have trained yourself to simply be in the present and be in your heart, you'll be fine, And I think it's a great, a great strength that this practice has, that's one of the promises, that if I simply learn to let go, and I repeat that over and over, whether I sit there for 20 minutes or 45 minutes or 2 hours, and I teach myself every time a thought comes up, every time a sensation, I teach myself to let go and not try to change the circumstances, but be a friend of the nature of change, then, this is going to work out, even if from some level you may say it doesn't work out. And, but from the internal point of view, it's going to work out. So I really encourage you to keep training yourself, And I'm sorry about the comparison of youth culture. That's kind of tough, But it's also limited, and it's it's actually very limited, So that's kind of what I had to say tonight, I think. And again, I'll just go through, because this has to be repeated over and over again. And so I'm just going to go through these again. I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. I am the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape ill health. I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. My actions are my only true belongings. I love this kind of translation of this. Is my actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground upon which I stand. Sobering, but also, that's the thing. We so easily forget this, and this is why it's considered a morning reflection. Is it somehow that when we get it, oh, I'm going to get old. I at some point I'm going to get ill. Some point I'm going to die. And all those things that I'm attached to and dear to me and love and care for are going to slip through my fingers. And my only possessions are my actions and words. That's pretty profound. So again, I really encourage you to, either get a copy of this. I think that Marcia has it in chat, and also on the Mountain Stream website under, I've forgotten what it says.
The Nematicity listing page, the sitting groups.
It's on the sitting group page. Okay. But actually,
or the home page you can go to.
Go to the home page, and before you can get on this, you have them right there in front of you. So use them, and please, one of the things is this week is you know, I would encourage you every morning to, even if you only sit for 3 minutes or something, that you read through these and just recognize that they are, you know, they're just a truism, and that to really get them is to free yourself from a lot of your, um, you know, we're such tenacious creatures, you know. So, you know, I think I could do a couple questions here, just as, because each night we're going to do one of these, and tomorrow will be about illness, which is, oh my goodness. So, old age. So you'll have to,
John, it's Marie.
please.
When listening about our youth culture and seeing you at the gym, I was going to say the gym's a perfect metaphor, I think, of the youth culture, and feeling pretty invisible there with age.
Well, so be it, you know. The spandex culture there. You know, I don't know. It's fine, you know, but you do become invisible, Marie, you know. You know that, you know. And maybe that's, you know, there's something freeing in being invisible, you know.
I was going to say it's actually appropriate this time in life, you know, to be more invisible, or to feel that less pressure, I guess, in some ways.
Yes. Yeah. I would hope so. Yeah, for me, the gym is, you know, it's a way I can keep this thing still moving, you know.
Hi, John. This is Cindy.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, I found the same thing. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
And I was stunned when I went to Dharamsala and felt such respect and people revering the age. And it was such a incredible experience, especially at first. I was totally shocked. But then over time, I got used to it and then came back here and knew. I have a theory that we're just a young culture. You know, we're only a couple hundred years old, and how old is the culture in India and Tibet? So maybe when we grow up a little bit, then things will change. But yeah, I've definitely had the same experience as you, and I really appreciate you going over these reflections. I find them very, very helpful to motivate myself. I can be lazy, but when I start thinking about these reflections, it really motivates me to do something to move my mind in a positive direction and cultivate loving kindness and compassion and all of those positive things that bring us happiness. So thank you for this talk.
Well, you're welcome. And I was going to say, this is kind of the poem I read at the beginning about, it's really about the paradox of everything's empty, but everything is just the way it is that on some level, you know, the difficulty is sometimes it's opposite. And I think that even though these reflections are serious, because they're about our beingness, they're also about lightness of being. And that when we really see that, oh, this is just, it's okay. I'm getting old because I've had this much time, you know, or you know, I get sick because that's what happens, you know, and I will die, and that's you know, I don't know, you know, it's some of our culture, I think, Cindy, you know, has this thing of superpowers, you know, Superman and all that stuff, and permanence. you know, and part of our longing for that stability of permanence. And what a disaster, you know. If things didn't change and you didn't kind of hang out and then you die, and I'll talk about some of the other stuff later, but you know, and then we come back and we forget everything and start from scratch and we have to learn things all over again, but maybe not the same, you know, I don't know. I hope that part of this is the investment we have in Dharma is something that gives us sort of you know, this possibility of lightness of being that is in our future, you know. And the culture, you know, I think also there's something trained in the Asian culture about age that we just don't have, you know. It's not certainly not in the cosmetic business or the clothing business or the you know, all that. It's just not there. And maybe we'll get there, you know.
It's also built into the language, right? Because of the honorific and the designation of who's older and who's younger, and the respect just climbs the older you get. So to feel that level of respect actually was a little bit scary, like, how old am I? And these people are asking me for my advice and they're listening to me. It was unusual from my experience, but very, very pleasant. And the only thing is dealing with my ego. So
Well, you have to work on that one. Still going to get old, and people may respect you for being old. And hopefully you can answer wisely, or they're expecting it. And you also, you know, I hope that part of age is letting go of that dualism, that identity, because boy, talk about that's where the suffering is. It's like, I am this or I am that, or woo, yeah. Hopefully we can learn to kind of let go of that little by little. You know, it's not, this is the thing about Buddhism, you know, it's not like even a direct experience simply gives you choice, you know, and then you start choosing not to identify the same way that you did prior to your understanding or teaching, you know. And then little by little, you just let go of who you think you are, or, you know, thought you were. You're really not that anyway, but that's okay. Get into that, you know. Please, is that Elizabeth? Yeah.
Yeah. So I work in a retirement community. So I'm around some 300 people who are 20 to 30 years older than I am, which keeps me feeling pretty young.
All right.
But it also gives me a lot of examples of like, how would I want to be old? And quite often it's the people that are just still very generous and enjoy people and enjoy their living. But it seems to me that sometimes it's also a matter of personality, or maybe their practice of enjoying people or seeing beauty is a practice in itself. How much do you think does personality come into play?
Well, I think, first of all, personality, this is a complicated question, because I think that, you know, when you have a baby that comes in, they already have some propensity to be something, you know, and so that's there, yes. But then you have a lifetime, and particularly they have lifetime of sort of supporting that or pulling it apart, you know, and saying, oh, I see the beauty even in the, you know, the flower that's old, you know. It's so that is, to me, there's a piece that you carry with you, but there's also a piece that's trained. And part of our work here is why we're doing this while you're still young, is teaching yourself how to let go and see the beauty in in, you could say, seeing beauty in the process itself, and that there is enjoyment and wisdom in that, in seeing that, So, yeah, that's a trip though. you know,
My sensei, Wendy Palmer, is sending you her love.
Oh.
I told her I was going to be with you.
oh, great. I went to high school. She was in my graduating class in high school. So yes, please give her my love if you would. Sensei, yes. Please, Katrina.
Thanks. It just seems brilliant to me that these conditions, they all are so useful in teaching us the Four Noble Truths. I mean, they teach us about unsatisfactoriness. They teach us about impermanence. They teach us about letting go. And so they seem very, it seems like quite an amazingly wonderful process. Because if we live long enough to see over and over that people die, we're growing older, those we love are growing older, capacities change and diminish, and the consequences or the causes and conditions, I don't know, what happens in terms of our actions and our deeds and our words. When we live long enough to see that over and over and over, it helps us to understand that everything changes and that we can't hold on to much and we might as well let go.
Well, that's part of it. The nature of growing old to age is that, but also think of these 5 reflections.
Yeah.
As an 18-year-old.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, what? Oh, really? Wait, that's not me,
Right.
But oh no, this is kind of the cycle.
Right.
So if you can pick it up young enough, I think it's actually great,
That would be quite something. Yeah.
It is something, I think, and I see that a lot of times in some of the young monks or whatever that I know, and wow, it's like, oh, they have been doing this or going to, well, we'll talk about maybe of going to the morgue and a young man who is, sexually excited about life, and they see this,
Decomposition.
this decomposition, and and the Buddha in the Satipatthana, there are these kind of steps of contemplations of looking at the disintegration of the body, so don't be too attached, because this is the nature and what happens, and of course we have a culture that looks at this skin deep, and
Yeah, I feel really fortunate in so many ways, but in Hawaii, the culture feels quite different to me in those ways. It's being an elder in general is a very, I don't feel like it's put on a pedestal, but it's very well regarded. And yeah, and the body is not regarded in the same way in general. Uh, anyway, it feels quite different in those ways.
well, thank goodness, and I think this is true in particularly a lot of original cultures or native cultures that,
Right.
one of the things I saw coming back after many years in Asia was that I really needed to teach about the body in Western culture, because we were so cerebral and disembodied, and that they really felt that, they were taught that, and that we weren't taught that at all. You know, we were actually taught more how to dissociate from the body or use it. It's amazing, like athletes, and where just you take it to its limit to understand or to get it or have it.
I don't know. I wonder sometimes if some of that has to do with being an oppressor and an oppressed, or, many of the tribal cultures had so much taken away, so much lost. And so those essential things of embodiment or actually getting old, those qualities are, you know, I think it's different with a culture that pretty much came in and took what it wanted, and with not too much regard in many cases of what was there. I think that those historical aspects have to do with some of the formation of these things.
Yeah, yeah, and you could say colonizers.
Yeah, that would, yes,
Another. It's,
be a way to say it.
so please, we're going to do a metta now, but I want you to just to use these 5 reflections just this week in your sitting practice, and just maybe you don't have to, it's reflection, so you don't have to do anything with them. You just have to know them. So you repeat them, and that in repeating them, that there is part of your mind that gets, oh, I get it. Okay. And even if you know it, which you do, this is another way of kind of instilling of the truth of that, in the sense of reflection. So I encourage you that each day, as part of your sitting practice, in the morning or evening, that you go through these 5 and kind of let them seed themselves in your practice and being. So just taking a moment to kind of settle in, kind of feel your body, this whole, from the toes to the crown of the head, this whole mass. And just start by bringing attention to your heart, and just noting that when you are aware of old age and sickness and death, and that you will lose whatever you're attached to, and that you are your actions are your only true belongings. And then as you settle into this body heart awareness, to just hold everything around you. As you care for yourself, you also care for that's around you, your environment, the place you're sitting. And just bring this word compassion. It is the awareness of the result of age and illness, death, and losing the things we hold on to or attach to. And then these kind of statements of metta, and may I live with an open heart. May I live with an open heart. May whatever covers my heart be dissolved. May whatever covers my heart be dissolved. And then from that, in a sense, awakens to itself, we extend this generous, open, kind, loving, caring heart out to sometimes just immediately those in our families and friends. And then we don't stop there. We do that as a conscious piece. And then we extend it out to beings and the Sangha, those are not even known to us, you know. They too are deserving of our love and our willingness to extend compassion and kindness and happiness and balance, equanimity out to beings, so that beings everywhere may be infused with our life, and that our life may be that of acknowledging these 5 reflections, and that there is also the light and the joy that we are. And again, if there's any merit or power or energy that is produced by coming together like this, that we extend it out to beings everywhere, that people may benefit from our practice. May all beings everywhere be happy. Thank you. I'm going to turn this over